So I read in an interview that you did something so wonderful that you said, we don't just do marketing. And what you were talking about was that your role is so much bigger than quote unquote marketing. It's about product design and really the future of the company in a much bigger way. And so I would love to understand how you bring that sensibility to talent that you go out and acquire. Is that something you look for, that kind of thinking? And then also how you bring that sensibility to folks on your own team.
Yeah, it's a great question, because for me this is a very important way in which I see the role of marketing. So I think it probably starts there. I have a deep belief that marketing sits at the heart, kind of at the crossroads of arts and science, at the heart of the right and the left brain, at the center of understanding data and insights, but translating it into really creative ideas that capture consumer imagination. And ultimately, that's how value is created in a business. So I see marketing as a really important function, and especially even more essential now than ever before, to actually enable the business to achieve growth through real understanding of consumers, audiences, and creating very strong value. So that's kind of how I see these roles in my organization, and I have a really big team, of which not that many have marketing in their title, but in some ways I also feel that we all contribute to that same sort of cause, let's say. And the question around talent, I think the first thing is that it's really important to define the role of a marketer in an organization, because it's not just the role of marketing, uber role of marketing, that I think we're now talking about, and probably we'll talk even more about from a growth council standpoint, which I actually think is the right conversation. But it's also very much within an organization, because Lego, for example, in my organization, we have product design, we have creative agency, we have brand insights, we have content developers, we have long-form content developers, we have digital platform owners. So when you add all of that together, what's the role of marketers? What's the role of those marketers that look after the brand and look after the big franchises that we have? I think it's absolutely essential to talk to them about the role that they play, because in my view, they are uber conductors of the symphony that is around each one of the big themes or products or innovations that we move forward with. So a lot of it is sense making in the organization, and why I also use the analogy of a conductor. So I come from a music background. I tend to use analogies that are relevant to me. Why use analogy of the conductor? Because conductors are not people who just orchestrate and coordinate. That's not their job. Their job is to envision a piece of music and bring it to life in a way that it's never been heard before. And on the one hand, they are standing in front of a very big orchestra. Usually being a conductor is the most challenging job in music, because you have to understand how each instrument plays. Most conductors play at least a couple of them well, very well. But you also have to understand how to bring people together. So it's a huge leadership job. And at the same time, you also are delivering to the audience behind you, which is, in our situation as a consumer. So these Uber orchestrators, they're very important, and they need a lot of different skills in order to actually be competent. They have to have the right brain skills about creativity and brand building and consumer understanding, but they also have to have the left brain skills and understanding how it translates into business. How to interpret data, how to leverage in order to actually be as effective and as efficient as possible. And ultimately, it's a big leadership job. So that's what I create in my organization, very much through dialogue, through conversation, but also building the right competencies. And that's very much what I look for when we're hiring from outside.
So speaking of competencies, the language of the business itself, is that a thing that you look for? Is that a thing that you teach? How important is it for marketers to understand and appreciate the fundamentals of the business of Lego and bring that understanding to the way that they think about marketing?
In our situation, it is super important. The reality is that the really great marketers, they understand the whole value chain, meaning when we talk about the language of the business, they understand how everything that happens to actually create a product or create a campaign, all the way through to how it flows into the stores, into consumers' hands, and ultimately, reaches a child and hopefully delights and surprises them. And that's the understanding. That understanding is really important to also understand how to create value and how to make choices. So our marketers kind of grow up in the business with a real understanding of exactly how that whole value is created from the very beginning of a production of a brick all the way to the brick in a child's hand.